In this video, I'm going to be taking you step by step on how to build a fully automated custom stock watch list in Google Sheets. And I've put out videos like this before, but some of the ways that you pull in this data and some of the formulas have changed since then. So this is going to be an updated video. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how the spreadsheet works. This is an incredibly powerful tool. All we need to plug in is the ticker and all of this data will automatically load in. So let's go ahead and look at an example. Let's say instead of ExxonMobil, we wanted to look at Johnson & Johnson stock and add it to our watch list. All we would need to do is plug in J&J, the stock ticker, and hit enter. And you can see all of this data automatically loaded in. We have things like the price, 365-day change, we have a days change dollar, days change percentage, we have dividend metrics, 52-week high, 52-week low, we have a 12-month return, price to earnings, and then we also have the industry automatically imported into our spreadsheet. Let's say instead of a 365-day change, we wanted to see 500. We could easily change that up here. We'll hit 500-day change, and all of this data will load in for our spreadsheet. Looks like it's taking just a moment, but there you go. You can see now we have the 500-day change for all of the stocks in our watch list. So this is an incredibly powerful tool. It's a great way to keep track of any stocks that you're interested in and adding them to your watch list. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start our step-by-step tutorial. So the first thing that I did is just come up here and plug in whatever you want to title the spreadsheet. I just put SW for stock watch list. Let's go ahead and dig into it. So the first thing we need is a ticker column. So I'll plug in ticker right here, and let's go ahead and use Apple stock as an example. So all we have is ticker and Apple listed right here. So this data right here is going to be the data that we manually plug in, and whatever we plug in, all of this data here will automatically load in. So the first thing that I want to be able to see is the name of whatever company I'm looking at, and the first function we're going to use is the Google Finance function. This is an incredibly powerful tool, and it's gonna allow us to pull in pretty easily a lot of the data that we're using today. So we'll come over here and click on Apple, do a comma, and in double quotations, we're just gonna type out name, close the quotations, close the parentheses, and hit enter. And you can see we now have Apple listed. So let's say if we wanted to look at ExxonMobil, you can see that'll update. Johnson & Johnson, it'll update. So again, very powerful tool, and we'll be using it for quite a few of the functions today. Now the next thing that I want to see is the current trading price for this stock. So again, we will use that Google Finance function. We'll come over here and click on the ticker, and in quotations, I'm just going to type out price, and we'll close the quotations in parentheses again. So now we have the current trading price for Apple. So you're beginning to see this come together, really powerful. We can really control a lot of the metrics that we want to currently look at. Now the next part is not quite as simple, unfortunately. What we want to be able to do is we want to have a 500-day change or 365-day change in this scenario. So let's just type out 365-day change, and I'll hit enter. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the next formula that's in there, and I'm going to break down exactly what that formula is doing, because it's a pretty long and complicated formula, but if you really look at it closely, you'll probably be able to understand exactly what's happening. So I'll plug this in here. Let's go ahead and fix this, and I'll type out 365 and hit enter. And you can see we now have a 365-day change, and here's our formula. So yes, I know this is a very long formula, but let me kind of explain exactly what's going on here. So to start out, you can see we're using a Google Finance function right here. So it's Google Finance A2. So again, we're pulling Apple stock. We're pulling the price at two different time periods. We're pulling the price 365 days ago all the way to today. And then once we break this out, you can see it's indexed number 2, and then we have a spark line formula, and that's what's actually creating this chart right here, that spark line. And then we're indicating what kind of spark line formula we want. It says chart type, column, color, purple. So we have a column chart that's purple, and it's showing us a 365-day change. Now the problem with this formula right now is if I were to change this to 500, nothing changed, and that's because we manually have 365-day in right there. So we need to find a way to automate this process to where we can see, 365-day change, 500-day, 750-day change. So what we can do is to start out, we are going to actually need to format this cell right here. So what we'll do is we'll come to format, and we're going to go to number. If we come down here to custom number format, you can see I actually already have it plugged in from where I've used it in the past, but I'll click here. But basically you're using a number sign, and then in quotations putting days change. So I'll click on apply. So now what I'll do is I'll close this out and type out 500 and hit enter. And you can see it now shows 500, but it still says the 500 days change. Now our chart hasn't changed yet. That's because we need to take this cell here and we click on cell D1, but we need to anchor it by, I made a mistake. We'll go ahead and go back. we need to put dollar signs in front of this, because what that's going to do is it's going to anchor it to our formula and keep this cell right here for our future tickers. So I'll hit enter right here. I'll go ahead and blow this up, and it should be working now. So let's go ahead and try 365. I'll hit that, and now you can see our chart is updating accordingly based off of what we have right here. So let's go ahead and test out a big number. Let's say we want a 1,000 day change. I'll plug in 1,000, and now you can see we have a 1,000 day change chart. So a very powerful tool right there. I know that was a lot to take in all at once, but again, any of the more complicated formulas, I'll be sure to either post in the description or in the comments. So if you're struggling with it, you can just copy and paste it from there. Let's go ahead and keep moving forward. We're gonna have a few more simple formulas once again. Let's go ahead and do a day's change. And for this one, we are going to be using the Google Finance function once again. So we'll come over here and click on Apple stock. Now in quotations, we just want to type out change, and we'll close that off and hit enter. So now you can see we have our day's change as a dollar amount. So that's pretty good. We want to be able to look at that, but one of the things we also want to look at is the day's change as a percentage. So let's go ahead and type that out as well. We'll do days change, and then I'm just going to type out the percent sign as well, so we know what we're looking at. And again, let's use that Google Finance function. Come click on Apple, and in quotations, we're going to type out change PCT, obviously stands for percent. We'll close this off, but then we also need to divide it by 100 so we get a correct percentage. So you can see it's going to come in a decimal format. So we'll come up here and click on percentage. So we can see as of the last trading day, it looks like Apple was up by about 11 cents, which was a change of about 0.06%. Now the next metric we are going to be looking at is again one that's a little bit more complicated, but it's incredibly powerful, and it's a really cool tool to be able to pull into your spreadsheet. And we're actually going to be web scraping this data from a website called FinViz. So let's go ahead and jump over to that website. I'll come up here and plug in the Apple stock ticker. And on this website, what you'll see when I scroll down is we have a table with a lot of really important data that we can be able to pull into our spreadsheet. Now in this instance, we're looking to be able to pull the dividend data in. So you can see this table right here. It's showing the dividend right here that's being paid out. It's 96 cents for Apple. We want to be able to web scrape this into our spreadsheet. And I've put out videos before on how to web scrape in Google Sheets, so you can check that out if you're interested, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this formula up here. And again, you can see this is a very long, somewhat complicated formula, but again, I'll kind of break down what's going on. You might want to watch my videos on how to web scrape if you want to learn more, but basically you can see we have the FinViz website listed right here, and then we have cell A2 listed right here, which is Apple's stock ticker. It's basically an extension of the URL right here. We're indicating we want to web scrape in a table. We're looking to web scrape table 10, and then 7.2, which is basically the placement of the dividend data. Then we're using the substitute formula to pull out some of the metrics that we don't want. And so when I hit enter, you can see it's loading, and now we have 96 cents. That was web scraped directly from FinViz. So you can see again, it looks like it's showing correctly. The dividend payout 96. Jump back over to our spreadsheet 96. Go ahead and test this out again to make sure everything's working properly. Let's say we plug in Johnson & Johnson. I'll hit enter, and all of that data is automatically updating in our spreadsheet. Now, fortunately, the next one's going to be a little bit easier. We want to look at the yield. This is a very simple formula. We're just going to take the current dividend payout and divide it by the current share price. And once we have that, we'll come over here, make it a percentage. So now we have the dividend payout and the current dividend yield for this company. The next things we want to see is going to be a 52-week high and a 52-week low. And fortunately, there is a Google Finance function for both of these. So we'll come over here again, click on Apple, and in quotations, we're going to type out high 52. And then we'll come over here and we'll do the same thing, Google Finance function, but this time we're just going to type out low 52. So I'll close the quotations, close the parentheses, and hit enter. Now we have that data. So we're starting to get pretty close. We have a couple more complicated formulas that we do need to pull in. The first one that I want to be able to see is the 12-month return. I know a lot of people don't have this on their watch list that they build custom in Google Sheets, but I think it's a pretty cool function overall. Again, I'll just probably copy and paste this into our spreadsheet and break down what's happening in the formula. So basically what's going on here is you can see we have Google Finance A2 price, and so that's basically just pulling the current price for whatever ticker is listed right here. But then we divide that by Google Finance price, at a certain day, and in this scenario, we want it from 1 year ago. So it's basically just a formula to see, obviously, our 12-month return. We're pulling in the price at different time periods and telling us how long the time period is. It's 1 year, so when I hit enter, you can see we're pulling in that 12-month return, turn it into a percentage. Apple's up 27% over the past year. Now, the next function we want to be able to see is our price to earnings. So fortunately, again, simple formula, Google Finance, come over here, click on Apple, quotations, PE, and we'll close this off and hit enter. And now we have our price to earnings formula. So we only have one more formula to go. And again, this is actually going to be something that we web scrape from FinViz, and that is going to be the stocks industry. Now, the way you pull in this data has changed quite a few times. So I try to update all my spreadsheets periodically to make sure they're working properly. And this one actually took some time for me to figure out how to pull, and I'll show you why. If we jump over to FinViz, really the only place that you can see the industry is right here. It's showing technology, and the way, again, you pull this in has changed quite a few times. But I have created a new way to pull this in. Now, it's kind of unique, but it works pretty well, as you saw in the tutorial at the beginning. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to come out here to the side. I'll go ahead and paste in this formula. And again, this is just another web scraping formula that I've kind of found to work pretty well. But when I hit enter, you can see it's showing technology, consumer electronics, and showing USA. So when we jump over to FinViz, it's web scraping this entire data set right here that we can see. Now, the problem with this is we want to be able to pull in just the industry. So we only want to be able to see the technology portion of that right there. So what can we do to fix this? Well, there's actually another function we can pull in that will search this cell right here and pull it into this cell. And I'll go ahead and plug it in. You can see right here, basically we're using a combination of an if statement, a left statement, and a search. But it's basically searching for anything that is left of this line right here and pulling it in. So in this scenario, we have technology, and you can see it looks like it's automatically pulled it in. So let's go ahead and test everything out because we have all of our metrics in. We'll use Johnson & Johnson again as an example. I'll hit enter, and you can see everything worked properly. That's pretty incredible. All this data was automatically pulled in. So you can see this is incredibly powerful. There's a whole lot of different things you can do. So let's go ahead and keep building this out. I'll go ahead and copy and paste in some tickers for us to use as example data. I'll just paste this right here. Now we need to go ahead and plug in this data here. Unfortunately, due to the way we pulled this in, we can just highlight all this data and drag it down, and you can see everything loads in automatically. What we need to do is we'll need to come down and drag this formula down as well. And now all of our industry data has imported as well. So what you can do once you've done that, if you don't want to continue to look at this data, you can just click right here, double click, and we can hide this column if we want. And you can see this is still going to work properly. So we have all this metrics in. Now, one of the things that I want to do as well is if we come up here and click, I'm going to want to do some custom formatting to make everything look a lot nicer because it's really great data right now, but it's still a little more difficult to read. So I'll go ahead and center the text right here. We can do the same thing here, and let's go ahead and start doing some coloring as well. So if I highlight all of this and click on format, we can come up here to alternating colors. Now right here, you're gonna have some options with the way you want your spreadsheet to be colored. That's totally up to you with what you do. For this tutorial, I'm gonna go with yellow and click on done. And now you can see everything's quite a bit easier to read already. Now let's go ahead and make it even more readable. I'll zoom out a little bit. Maybe we'll go with 90. And let's just go ahead and highlight everything. I'll double click here and see how it formats it. So everything's a little bit more readable right now. I'll mess around with it just a little bit. Just the sizing of everything. I want to expand these. We'll expand this. Let's go ahead and expand our dividend data a little bit more. I want to be able to see that better. And maybe we can pull out our price to earnings just a little bit as well, and our 52-week high and 52-week low. Okay, so we're making a little bit of progress. It's starting to look better. There's still a couple of different things that I want to be able to do. And one of those things is I want to add conditional formatting. So basically what that's saying is I want the cells to look a certain way based on the data that is in there. The cells that I want to change are going to be the days change and our 12-month return. So what I want to happen is if the cell is negative, I want the text to show up red, but if the cell is positive, I want it to show up green. So once I've highlighted these, if we come up here to format, you can see conditional formatting right here. I'll click on this, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to add a rule. We're going to say if the cell is greater than 0, I'll come here and say that I want the text to show up green. and you can see it's doing that now, but I want to add one more rule. We're going to do the opposite. If the cell is less than 0, I want the text to show up as red. So I'll click on done and we'll close out. Now you can see based on if the cell is positive or negative, it's going to show up green or red. So anytime I have like a metric that's showing either a positive amount or a negative amount, that's a format that I really like to add. I think it makes everything pop out a little bit more and helps you to visualize things a little bit better. Now it's still a little bit hard to read, so I'm going to come over here and expand some of this data. We can just highlight the cells, drag this down just a little bit. It's probably a little too much. Let's go ahead and try that again. And there we go. So everything's a little bit easier to read now. Let's go ahead and bold the text of everything. So I'll click here and click Command B since I'm on Mac. You could also click this button right here to bold everything. But now everything is starting to look, again, a little bit more readable. And now that I look at this, I actually want to blow this up just a little bit more, not too much. And okay, so now we're starting to make some progress. So we're very close to being finished. Really the only things left that I want to do is I'm going to highlight some of these cells that I want dollar signs in front of, like this metric here, maybe our price, and our dividend data. And we can come up here and put a dollar sign in. So actually the dividend data didn't update because it was web scraped in. That's okay, I'm fine with it staying that way. But other than that, it looks like our dollar signs are there for everything else. So I think we're pretty much finished. So let's go ahead and test everything out to make sure it's working properly. Let's say instead of Johnson & Johnson, we will go back and say we want to look at ExxonMobil. I'll plug in the stock ticker and hit enter. And you can see all of this data automatically load in. And wow, look at that 1,000-day change chart for them, pretty impressive. But let's say we want to see a 365-day chart. We can come up here and change that. I'll hit enter. And you can see all these charts have updated accordingly. So there you go. You can see just how powerful of a tool Google Sheets can be for tracking or watching financial investments. So that's how you build a completely automated stock watch list in Google Sheets. Again, for all of the more complicated formulas, I'll be sure to post them either in the description or in the comments down below. If you'd like to be able to download the spreadsheet, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. I have a lot of other really powerful Google Sheets tools there, and you can also join a community of dividend investors there as well. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave me one down in the comments down below. But with that being said, I hope this video helped you guys out a ton, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.